welcome back to the LUNC Continental podcast, folks. This is a bit of a special one. We're reaching out into the more broader community and looking for those projects that are, dipping their toe in, trying to make a difference. And for me, this is a real interesting topic, specifically because BTC really is something we actually lack in the Terra Classic environment. So without further ado, I have got Bitmos and another member of their team. So guys, thank you so much for joining the podcast today. Run us by it. Who are you? What are you about? And, what's the team built up from?
Yeah, so, we haven't really prepared for this. So Bitmos is really about bringing some of the novel innovations on Bitcoin that we've seen in the recent months, such as the ordinals and BRC twinning standards that has created a wave of renewed interest in building on BTC. So, however, we do acknowledge that there's a couple of staggering limitations on what BTC could achieve. So, thereby, we want to bridge for this novel coin standards on BTC onto Cosmos ecosystem, and then the first one we picked on is Luna Classic. So that's pretty much what Bitmos is about in a nutshell, but there's a lot more that we are building. So stay tuned. Maybe Maguro can share a bit as well.
Yeah, so there's clearly a lot more to this than just what's on the surface and kind of what's stated on the tin. Walk us through it. What has really, brought you to a position now where you're thinking to yourselves, hey, I want to get involved with the Terra Classic community, and realistically, what's the benefits of us being holders of, that sector specifically?
Okay, sure. So, first thing first, I think we would like to probably introduce ourselves. We actually used to build on Luna before the crash. So we were actually the OG Luna community, and what is now known as the Luna Classic. So we've been around for the longest time. We were all once very active in this community, very familiar with the stack. And it's quite a shame that what has become of it after the crash, and a lot of developers left. Early this March, we saw that there was a new interest in this BTC coin standard known as ordinals and BRC20. So we kind of took notice of that, and then we felt that that's probably something that we could put over to Luna Classic and rejuvenate the whole community and the development spirit in this space. So that's pretty much why we're here and why we're doing this. We believe that there's a strong synergy in where BRC20 and Luna Classic stands, and the value that the wider Cosmos community can do for both the Luna Classic and the Bitcoin community. Yeah.
So you're from the OG community, so you're pre-crash people, so to speak, right? So you're around before the crash, you're around during the crash, right?
Absolutely, and we're definitely still around after the crash. Yep, sir.
Amazing. So, what was pre-crash life like for people like you? What was the system like before the crash? Did BTC play a role back then?
Andrew, you want to take on?
Yeah. So basically, as we knew, let me just first talk about what a life used to be like pre-crash on Terra. It was vibrant, it was full of energy, and it was just happy community where people have a centralized goal to work towards, and there was just so much synergy within community. So everybody was building towards this one single goal, to broaden the usage of UST, right? And as far as BTC goes, do recall that just prior to the crash, Terra Luna had a plan to bring in BTC into the ecosystem as a eventually it would become the main backing reserve for the UST peg. Unfortunately, and we know what happened, right? And everything just went down south.
Yeah, I mean the crash itself was caused by a few things, but specifically Anchor, right?
Well, you
Yes,
could
that's right.
pin that on Anchor in a sense that because that liquidation, cascading liquidation, and that eventually just forced UST to stay DPEG forever. And this is partially why I would argue that this is mainly the reason why the original Terra team, not us, by the way, we were building on original Terra, but we're not part of the Terra team. That they wanted to bring in BTC as the reserve, particularly for the USD peg.
So for specifically, right, what's the difference for you folks between building on Luna right now and building on LUNC? It seems a lot of builders have decided to obviously move and migrate to this new chain. Is this not something that you folks have decided to do, or is it specifically just looking at the LUNC chain?
Well, so I think one thing, let me add on just a bit more to what Dexter has talked about, why we chose Lunc, right? Why we chose Lunc is mainly because, first of all, we do have all the history and experiences with Terra Classic. And in terms of dev, it's just offering us a better and more efficient and smooth experience for integration. And secondly, why like what's the main difference, like you said, between building on Terra Classic and Terra Luna V2 right now? I would argue the biggest difference right now is on Terra Classic, we do have a true decentralization, just like BTC. And this offers a fair playground. Whereas, yes, we know what's been going on Terra Luna, that they're trying to go for decentralization, but it's still not, because pretty much TFL still has a large stake in the ecosystem, and they have much power to it.
Would that be based on the amount that they hold, or is there something that we don't know as a community?
That we don't really know for sure, but if you go by most of the recent governance proposals on Terra Luna, right, you could see that most of the large validators do play an essential role in pretty much every single proposal. And whereas here on Terra Classic, you have a much more diversified, decentralized governance that's happening.
Oh, do you think? I mean, this is why we're currently, working on a dynamic commission system, is to actually decentralize the voting power further, because it's so poorly centralized.
Well, it's still, in a way, it's still better than like what's really going on Terra Luna, right? Because most of the time you've I don't know if you've been paying attention to what's been going on, right? It's you get a bunch of what we call grifters that would go in and just put up a community proposal and just get a piece of the pool. And what they would do is they would collaborate with any of the major validators to pass the proposal.
I think we see that on both sides of both, the legacy side of things and then the mainnet side of things. I wouldn't say it's too different. It's a bit of a strange one, really, because we see that also here on the LUNC chain. A lot of validators simply vote based on the voting power it's going to give them. But over on Luna, I monitor things quite heavily. No validators realistically got above 4% voting power, which keeps it pretty decentralized as it stands. But it's quite clear you're wanting to build on LUNC, right?
Well, that's correct.
Amazing. So, walk us through it. What is the benefit to walking this road right now? What do you folks need to get done? Where are you in the process, and what's the next moves?
Okay, maybe I'll take this. Yeah, so first thing first, what are we exactly doing? So I think what we're really trying to do is to bring in the novel innovations that we see happening on BTC that is limited by what is obviously the limitations of blockchain network onto the wider Cosmos ecosystem. I think that's what they will see a lot of immense benefits when they plug into different app chains and they could have access to smart contracts and all the different DEXs. There's the ongoing innovations on Cosmos. So that's what we want to do for the BRC community. And on the other hand, for the Luna Classic, we want to make sure that Luna Classic is something that is highly valued within the Cosmos community by bringing on this kind of innovations onto the wider Cosmos community. That's why we kind of made Luna Classic one of the first places that we build our products on. So that's what we're trying to achieve. And what do we need for this to happen? I think first start, I think we really want to know, we want to hear from the community and Luna Classic, like what kind of products or what kind of what really interests them, like what kind of innovation excites them, because BRC20 is also a very wide spectrum of our products and offerings. So we want to focus on what kind of applications needs to come on the Luna Classic as well, and this is where we will actively pursue. And then, of course, we need to engage the Luna Classic community much more. We need to get them to come on our testnet, probably burn a little bit of BTC, bridge a couple of Bitmos or other BRC20 tokens onto Luna Classic, and they could probably figure out what goes on from there and what works for them. That would go a long way to helping us figure out what works for us on the Luna Classic on the long haul. So I think that's something that we're really looking for the community to work with us on. Yeah.
And I mean, if you was to ask the community, I think a lot of them would simply say to you, burn more coins. But I think we're past a situation where burning coins consistently is just not doing the job. We've witnessed this for like a year and 4 months. So for me personally, I would like to see use utility case. I don't dibble dabble with the BTC side of things, but you guys as project holders, I guess, you would probably get that response from the community. It would just simply be burn more coins and bring utility. But what is this? How does this BTC bridge work? How could the everyday user utilize this?
Okay, so in essence, it's not unlike any other bridges that we've seen. So essentially, BRC20 tokens are, to put it simplistically, it's just a bunch of JSONs that what do you call that word? Inscribed on BTC or standards. So what happens from there? These are tokens that we know exist on Bitcoin, but there are severe limitations to what they can do within a blockchain, a Bitcoin network itself. So disregarding that, there are a lot of very interesting projects that's coming up across GameFi, across other DeFi applications, and I think they would probably be able to live up to their potential best if they find themselves bridged to one of this, whether it's Cosmos or whether it's EVM network. I think they are actively exploring that as well. So we want to be the supporting partner on the Cosmos ecosystem. So I guess what we could do with BTC, BRC20 token instance, it really depends on any other, like if we look at Ethereum, like it really boils down to what people could imagine. Like there's nothing stopping people from coming up with any novel applications that is bearing its very unique heritage on Bitcoin, and then having the facilities that Cosmos actually offers. Like yeah, so that's essentially what we're trying to do, empowering innovation on Bitcoin token standards that is otherwise very much limited on its native chain. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean we don't have a bridge to BTC. It's kind of like this situation with just stable coins in general. We just don't have bridges, and if we do have bridges, they don't really work in the way that they should work. So, you know, is there ever like a world where you folks could provide possible like on and off ramps through BTC?
Yeah, it might sound like a very far-fetched aspiration, but you know, like Negro mentioned earlier, like you know, we used to be looking forward to having Bitcoin as a core collateral for UST to have a stable mechanism upon. So primarily, we would want to have Bitcoin on the Cosmos as well, and then subsequently, like maybe we go on to what's the foundation of the bridge. So in essence, because we all know that Bitcoin has a clear limitation on the smart contract facility, it's going to be a audited smart contract. Multi-sig wallets. So BRC20 tokens or Bitcoin flows to this wallet, and then the CW20 equivalent gets minted on Luna Classic or any other Cosmos chains where it matters. So that is essentially the underlying mechanics of the bridge. So once we have those things, we could try and relive the aspirations of what Luna used to be by having BTC or BRC20 tokens as collaterals, and then we could re-explore having a new kind of a stabilizing mechanism for the stable coins. So if we could technically have USTC stabilize, whether it's at $1 or it's at a much lower denomination, as long as it's stable, I think there's a lot of potential to having that application flowing back to Bitcoin and using that as a stable, you know, currency within the Bitcoin network itself as well. So instead of using a very, I guess, very volatile sets as is like denomination, we could potentially have USDC working on Bitcoin itself as well, because bridge goes both ways. So I think that's probably a very long-term aspiration that we see could play out if we could safely, you know, move assets between BTC and Luna Classic or the wider Cosmos community for that matter. Yeah, so that's something that we hope could eventually happen.
Yeah, and I mean, backing USTC with Bitcoin seems like an absolute no-brainer and something that should definitely be done. But I think the real question is, how do you actually get enough liquidity together to get that much Bitcoin to be able to back an algorithmic stable assets? I mean, you're talking billions of dollars, right?
Yeah. So for one, like I don't think it's very realistic to think that USTC can really return to its dollar peg status. I think we could settle for something else, a reasonable cap amount that is closer to its current value. But the value lies in its stability, right? Like we don't really need it to be $1, but as long as it's stabilized to a certain a fair value that the community could accept, and being stable, it has a lot of utilities to it. So I think that's something that's more realistic and aspirational than actually hoping that it gets back to $1, because that's quite a far-fetched goal from where we are standing right now. Yeah, so I think stability over the fact that it could potentially be $1 is much clearer goal that we are aspiring towards.
So you both being part of this pre-crash community, you were both around long enough to watch UST originally rise up and reach that sort of status quo that it did reach, and Luna get to where it did get to. And you're saying that it's a far-fetched kind of idea and this kind of dream of getting to $1 really fast and everything being okay. But I think you two can understand best that's simply just not going to happen. The amount of work that's got to go into that is insane, right?
I don't think it's just a matter of the kind of work it takes to put the current USDC back to $1. I think it's mathematically just unsound. It's very difficult to ignore the fact that a bunch of it was just simply printed during the how the mechanism was designed, and then a lot of it was just printed out of nowhere, and then there's absolutely nothing that was backing the UST back then, and now USDC. And as a result, it's just not feasible to just expect it to put it back to $1. The underlying value got to come from somewhere, and I as hopeful as I am, and with the kind of USDC that I might have in my bag, having $1 to a USDC would be nice, but this is just not too realistic to expect to happen. But I think we can, to some extent, aspire to having a stable mechanism, keeping it at a rate that people will find it comfortable to hold, useful to have, and then put it to transactions where stability is obviously valued. So I think that's something that we want to eventually live out the dream that we once had back on the Luna. I guess the old community that we were all hoping the UST was going to be that stable coin that works.
Yeah, so I was always with the understanding that honestly you could repeg it to a penny or a cent if you're from that part of the pond, and it would still have the same concurrent effect. You would still get the positive vibes from having, say, a 1 cent stable asset. Now, with that all being said, right, UST previously relied on more or less a stable supply between both, and the only times it was change, those changes led to big changes in the way the system handled everything, the way it called things and everything like that. But ultimately it worked on that burn to mint mechanism, and that's what kept the harmony going alongside everything.
Well, I think a very important component of the mechanism is out of the equation for most people, which is in order for any currency to remain useful and stable, it needs to be always in active circulation. That means everyone that is using it at any point in time needs to know that it's going to be $1. And the recipient needs to expect that it's $1, and not having 70% of it sitting on anchor collecting, interest that comes from nowhere. So I think that bit of the mechanism was overlooked. But otherwise, the burn and mint mechanism works I guess, a significant extent, it worked very well, except that a significant amount of it was just laying data on Anchor, not actually doing anything. So I think that was the main cause for DPEG. And people obviously took advantage of that and created a DAM and shot the hell out of it. But as long as Luna Classic as a community recognize that a truly useful currency needs to be in active circulation, then we would be actively looking at more utility rather than just burn for burn's sake, or peg it to $1 or whatever, because at the end of the day, even if you peg it to $1 for a while, if you don't have an active circulation or use for it, it's going to depeg again, like UST used to be. So I think that's something that we should really look into.
Yeah, I think a lot of this stuff is, it's poor. I think a lot of people are so driven with the idea of a repeg or being the person who performs the repeg, so to speak. It becomes very infatuating for them, and they start to miss out these key bits of information and, these technical advisories and historical events. And I think, people like you've got a lot to give knowledge-wise, right? Because like I've been saying, you've been around through all of this. The good, the bad, the ugly, right? You've been here for all of it. You've witnessed the great DK become arrested and put in jail. Things you thought you'd never see, you've seen. And I just feel like people like you've got a lot of knowledge. So, this BTC bridge, right? When for you folks would be the best time for you to get going with something like this? Is it going to be now? Is it going to be next week? Is it going to be a year from now? When's the best time?
Well, I guess it's never too early to start. Like for us, what is really important is for us to get into the BRC training community, find interesting novel use cases, and then where they cannot truly fulfill their aspirations on the Bitcoin network. I think this is where Luna Classic has a place for them to shine, and that it is never too early to start there. So I think we are actively working towards that. We are getting involved with the BRC training community. We are actively looking at the kind of projects that people are shipping, and then there we come in and offer them, why don't we explore building on Luna Classic with your BRC training tokens, so you can coexist on both Bitcoin and the Cosmos ecosystem. And with the kind of facilities that you have on the very unique kind of app chain ecosystem, where there's all this IBCs and very interesting order books, taxes. There's so much more that this projects could achieve, rather than just remaining on the native chain, which is BTC. So I think, yeah, we are actively reaching out. So there's never been a better time than being as early as we can.
Yeah, with Alliance and even the IBC system, because Alliance is a more advanced, I believe, way of doing IBCs and the ways to communicate. But ultimately, they achieve a very similar effect as an end result. But let's think about the perfect environment. You get this thing going, it's running, the bridge is active, and it's a really good bridge. It works well, it does what it says on the tin, it does it effectively, it does it efficiently, and it does it at a very, very cost, effective rate. Now, let's look at the kind of alliances that people are going to want to make with a chain like us, with a really good bridge like this. Is this part of your thinking? Are you thinking, because you've just been saying about the IBC connections, I'm guessing this is what you're thinking. Build home base at Lunc, make everything look more attractive, bring more utility to Lunc as a result.
Yeah, so obviously we're looking at Lunc as one of the first places we're focusing our development work on, primarily because I think there's an obvious sentimental value to working on where we got rated. And there's also this statistically, I think across all the different Cosmos chain, I think even at this juncture, Luna Classic has still a very decent market cap and liquidity flows across and it's listed on most major exchanges. So there's a great accessibility, there's great liquidity. So there's obvious reasons why we want to be here. And I think there's a very unique heritage to Luna Classic after whatever happened. And I think that works very well with the people that believes in BTC as well, which is why people are building on BRC20 despite the very obvious limitations. So yeah, we are looking once again to address limitations and then optimize what Luna Classic currently has, and then just maximize the value that it does for all the different communities. Yeah.
So from what I can tell in your light paper, you've spoken about faster transaction speeds, lower fees, these enhanced security measures, interoperability and scalability. How would this lower fees? Can you dive a little bit more into that for people?
Sure. So when we're comparing fees, we are obviously comparing it to having it running on any other Cosmos chains versus making a transaction on BTC itself. So if you're making a transaction with, say, transferring BRC20 tokens from one wallet to another, you are essentially doing a BTC transaction. And we all know how slow and expensive that gets, right? So Luna Classic at this present moment there are a couple of taxes and whatnot, but all in all, it's still significantly cheaper than BTC. Just also considering the fact that Luna Classic has all the different cosmosm capabilities that Bitcoin couldn't support as well. So I think it's a very obvious decision why people want to build the more interactive components, the more transactional components on the bridge layer, which is either Luna Classic or any other Cosmos chains, rather than being anywhere else. I mean, it's not even an option. They can't build on BTC. Yeah.
So this whole sort of, for me, I see this becoming very, very useful at many different points, and it all depends on when you get this up and running and you can get the bridges going. Can you just set a bridge up between obviously our chain and then the BTC chain, obviously with this through the BRC20 token? How does it work? Where does the liquidity come from?
Okay. So for the direction from BRC20 tokens to Luna Classic, we're definitely looking at obviously people from the BTC community, the BRC20 communities, parting with the tokens, putting into a multi-sig wallet on BTC, which is audited. You get to see whatever's going on in the wallet in real time, and then an equivalent of that gets minted through some kind of a middleware, and then it gets minted as a CW20 token on Luna Classic. So this is a very transparent layer for people from the BTC community wanting to move assets. So no asset assets that is not present on the BTC multi-sig could be minted on the Classic, obviously. So that is once again the very basic mechanics of the bridge. So when that happens, obviously we're trying to tap into the BTC liquidity flowing to Luna Classic. Yeah, but of course, like it goes two ways as well. So if someone wants to move, like I think in the example that we stated, that we are moving stablecoin from say USDC onto Bitcoin, and it gets settled on a Bitcoin layer, that becomes the other direction as well. But I think that comes much later. For a start, we're looking at BTC liquidity flowing into the Luna Classic.
Just because I'm a little bit confused myself, I guess some of the listeners might be when they get to this bit. So let me get this right. Holders on BTC decide to themselves, there's a liquidity pool open, they can fund it if they like. Is that the idea?
Yes, as a bridge, yes. So if you look at the BTC community, there are a lot of like different groups as well. Like there are people that is the purist that doesn't really like BRC20. There are the BRC20 guys who are, I guess call them like the innovators that want to see a little bit more than just hodling BTC and doing nothing with it. They would actively be exploring, novel use cases they could do with the BTC, which is hence BRC20, and these users would be a source of liquidity. They will be minting BRC20 tokens, which has a market price if they're trading on BTC or if they're trading on centralized exchanges. And then when they introduce that kind of assets onto BRC on the BTC bridge to Luna Classic, then yes, in a sense, we are introducing true liquidity from the BRC20 community and by extension the BTC community onto Luna Classics. So that just means that more activities will happen on Luna Classic, more burn, more utility, and more debts as well. So I think that's something that we could probably look forward to.
So this isn't ever going to be something that you're going to need funding, for example, from the community pool?
I think we might have mentioned this, we are starting our IDO first on a Luna Classics. So we are raising, but we're not seeking from the community pool. We're selling our tokens in exchange for bootstrapping funds for us to do what needs to be done.
If correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think you guys put up a proposal recently, didn't you? But it didn't reach quorum. Or am I confused?
I'm not fully aware of that, but I guess it might have been a mistake. But yeah, I think the main goal at this moment right now is to focus on the IDO, and for the IDO, I think we are really going about sharing more about what our aspirations, and hopefully the community, things like Wise and buys into the same vision. I think that's something that we would prefer than I guess a community-wide community funding request. Because at the end of the day, right, if we are raising funds, we would prefer to have a core sub-community that comes under us, that buys into the same vision that we do have as well. So I think a community spend, many times you get a mix of both kind of a community, like people that doesn't like you, but you get funded anyways. and they just get really toxic on Twitter and just keep bitching about you because you're not doing what they want you to do, like burn tokens all day long, right? So I think we would very much prefer to have a much more curated sub-community within Luna Classic as well.
That sounds good. It sounds a very organic way of doing things. But, you know, for the best part of how funding is on this chain right now, we couldn't fund a turkey for Christmas dinner at this point. I think it's that bad. There's just not enough funding to go around, and it's going to be even more disturbing watching which team's going to take USTC, and who's going to get the LUNC and who's going to dump the price in turn, so to speak. So it's going to be very interesting. So, you know, it sounds like you're going to be doing the rounds. It sounds like you're going to be going to a few different places, garnering support, explaining to people, you know, what you're doing. So, you know, what are the next steps, just as we're finishing up here and coming into the end? But, you know, what are the next steps? What are you doing next, sort of thing? What should we keep an eye out for?
Yeah, like I said, we're gonna be going with, I guess, hopefully a couple more AMAs. I think there are a lot of questions that the community may have. I think we had one previously, but the people were generally quite quiet, so we didn't really know what are the topics of interest that we need to cover. So I think our Twitter page is out there, so please talk to us, try to find out what we're doing. Yeah, we're doing whatever it takes to engage the community at this very moment. So we're happy to be on more shows and wherever takes us closer to the Luna Classic community. Yeah, so that's first. Of course, we are working really hard to put the products together as well. Doing more security scans and making sure that the product doesn't break. That's obviously one of the priorities as well. And then beyond the bridge, I think there are some expectations to other utilities that could explore as a result of having this bridge access. So I think we would really like to hear from the community to what kind of products they would like to see, whether it's like on-chain casino, whether it's like on-chain games or more DeFi products, or you know, like focus on getting some kind of stabilizing mechanism for USTC. So I think that really matters because we're not just building products for ourselves, we're building for the community. So we want to hear from the community. Yeah, so that's what we're doing in the immediate time frame.
That sounds brilliant, and I'm totally up for doing my part with these kind of things. So, you know, Twitter Space is definitely on the card for you folks. I can get that up, and you know, I can host, and we can get more people in, and we can get some questions answered, and try get some more direct sort of things for you from the community, so to speak. But you know, we'll sort that out between us. But I think, you know, there's been a lot to go through in this podcast, and there's a lot for people to absorb. But, you know, all of the links to all of these guys' Twitters, handles, projects are going to be in the description for this. But, you know, other than that, folks, stay safe, stay humble from me and from the lads. Is there anything you wanna add just before we wrap up here?
Yeah, I truly appreciate having us for this podcast. Yeah, I think for me, I think the last bit I want to add on is, I think I think we have this very similar experiences with most of this, like Luna, whatever they're called these days. Like we used to be called Lunatics, so we went through very similar experience. So I think we do have very similar shared aspirations. I think if they would give us time of the day, and I think we would like to do our best and see if we could relive that vision we once had before. Yeah. Maybe Muguro, if you have something to add on.
Well, I think one message I'd like to convey to the current Terra Classic community is that as much as we all love the whole burning concept and burning action, I think we'll have to, like what we talk about today, focus on creating something useful, focus on the actual usage, like turning your tokens into something useful, not just for, sending to a burn address for nothing. And that's exactly what we're here for. What we are here for. We're trying to reinstill that utility back into Terra Classic, making it usable again.
I
Over to you,
100%
Happy.
agree. I honestly 100% agree, because if we look at the life expectancy for new guard validators, and we look at not even that average, but the best case of a validator that's joined and their life cycle, HappyCattyCrypto run at a $10,000 loss. He burned a lot of coins, and he could have probably covered those running costs. It never got him anywhere. It never sent the price up, and it never provided anything. Now he's done with the LUNC community. He's not probably going to come back, and no projects came from that. We just got a one-time burn, and it's not healthy. So I'm all up for these projects that are here to build. They're here to find out what the community want, and they're here to try and provide that to the best of their extent. Lads, thank you so much for joining. We'll get a Twitter space booked in, and we'll get that all together, and we'll go from there. Folks, stay safe, stay humble, stay aware, and always, we'll catch you in the next one.
Thanks a lot. Yep, bye-bye.